All right. There we go. Oh, it would help if I turned down the volume so nobody hears my phone. All right. So tonight we have Tim Coomer on. I believe he likes to go by T Dog.
Dog.
T Dog. And so we are going to chat with him tonight about his paranormal experiences. So, why don't you tell me a little bit about who you are and all the fun things you know and learn about paranormal? Let's
Well,
go.
my name's Tim, as you said. From Indianapolis, Indiana. Part of Riverbend Paranormal, Indiana. Um, I've been in the field for about 21 years now, give or take. Went up here in a couple months, something like that. Um, I
That's
traveled.
a long time.
Yeah, I started in my early 20s and just been doing it kind of ever since. I mean, not doing it as strong as I've been doing over the last few years, but there's always been little investigations throughout the years, whether it be, uh, you know, abandoned locations, old bridges, tunnels, stuff of that nature, whatever. But over the last 4 or 5 years, it's really gotten a lot bigger, and we've traveled, throughout the United States, going to multiple locations, anywhere from the smaller locations to the big, notorious locations, and everything in between. So it's been quite a journey, man. Uh, Lots of cool experiences with teammates, meeting up with other teams, networking, and just being out there in the field, man. It's a wonderful thing, man. I couldn't ask for a better hobby. I mean, it's a little expensive, as we all know, but I love what I do,
Oh,
man. It's
it's
a lot of fun.
definitely an expensive
Yes, it
hobby.
is. Yes, it is. It's very expensive.
I mean,
Uh,
thank God for the pandemic money we had last year, because my team probably
right.
wouldn't have gone on all the extravaganzas that we went on last
Yeah,
year.
that definitely helped out on a couple. Yeah, I know what you mean. Sure. Sure.
Now, how did you get into the field? Because I mean, you said you've been over in about 21 years. So,
hmm
what got you started?
To be honest, when I was younger, everybody would always tell me stories about their experiences with paranormal, whether they seen a loved one that passed away, or shadows in their home, just some kind of experiences. And I really never had those kind of experiences as a kid, and it just grew my curiosity. I want to have some experiences for myself,
Right,
so I set out to have my own experiences, and I've been doing it ever since. Just
right.
uh, curiosity. That's what got me started. Got
Well,
tired of having everybody tell me stories, and I didn't have no stories to tell. And I was like, man, I gotta have some stories to tell. So been
so
doing it ever since.
what was your very first location that you ever went into, or investigation? Let's just say that, because it might not even be a
Right.
location,
Well,
like building wise.
yeah. I mean, we did a lot of abandoned buildings and cemeteries and things of that nature. But our very first location we ever booked was Randolph County in Infirmary.
Okay,
That was the very, very first one for the team that we
right.
investigated as a team.
And
So
how did that go for you?
it was
Being
good.
so
It was
young.
exciting. Yeah, it was exciting. Well, that was within the last 5 years. I wasn't when we were younger. It was exciting, but it was kind of a cluster too, because that was our first time at a big location like that.
Right.
So we didn't go. I mean, we went in with some intelligence, but then a lot of stupidity too, because it's a big location, and we didn't factor in the elements of the location, as far as the size of it, um, the different noises the location made. Being an old building,
Right.
wind. Just all the different things. But when it was all said and done, it was a pretty successful investigation. We did get some good EVPs that night, uh, and we've been back there probably 10 times since. That's one of our more favorite locations here in Indiana.
Now,
Always get something out there.
What is your most favorite EVP that you've ever captured?
Uh, we were at a jail in Hartford City, Indiana, and me and my buddy Luke were up in the women's area of this jail, and the claims were that the guards would sexually abuse the female inmates, and it was just the two of us up there in this area. And Luke asked, "Well, with the history of this location and in this particular area, we've heard the stories about sexual abuse. How do you feel about me and Tim being up here?" And on the EVP that we captured, it said, "It's a very angry woman. She yelled, 'Get out!' Paused for a second, then said, 'Now.'" So not only was it loud, scary, and she was screaming at us, but she was intelligent enough to pause in between
Right.
and then tell us now. So I gotta say that's still to this day probably the best EVP we've ever captured.
That's pretty cool. I mean sometimes when you listen to the EVPs, and I mean obviously I watch other people's videos that they post, cuz I let everybody post on my team page and stuff like that. But
Right.
it always amazes me when people post their EVPs and it's like a drawn out sentence. I'm like, okay, I didn't hear the whole sentence. And I wonder if if they're intelligent enough to even carry out a whole sentence like that, because I
Right.
haven't gotten
Exactly.
one yet, you
Right.
know. So
Yeah.
so
Most
getting
of the time
those.
it's pretty simple. You'll get a get out or
Right.
or or leave, or you'll get
Yeah.
a couple syllables. But like I said, that to this
You
day,
get
that's still the
usually one
most
or
impressive.
two, you get one or two words, and that's amazing. So when I
Yeah.
see
Well,
people.
like we were talking in before we went live, that one at the Salem Hospital when I was sleeping. I mean, I didn't hear it, and it was actually on the video that was recording me. There was a male voice said, "What are you doing here?" And I was sleeping and snoring. You could hear me snoring through the whole video, unfortunately. But that was pretty impressive too.
Ace wanted to know if you ended up leaving out of the room when you heard her say that.
No, because we didn't know she said it until after evidence review. Once we got back home, we didn't know she even said it until later on at
Oh,
another point.
my
But
computer
when
froze. There it goes.
but we definitely it definitely was pretty credible, and just hearing that voice over that recorder, it just sent shivers down my spine for sure. It was pretty creepy
Right.
because
Um,
she was angry.
I don't think I've actually had one that was like super angry on an EVP yet,
Right.
but
Mm.
I mean, my time will come. My time will come. You know.
Of course, of course.
But I think I know I was going to ask you about this, and somebody else kind of wants to know too. So Julie wants to know what started the handcuffs and blindfold challenge, because I know that was one of the top questions I was definitely going to ask you. What got
Right.
you into
Well,
doing
that
that?
that started a few years ago. It just got to the point where I wasn't really feeling like I was having a lot of experiences of
Hmm.
these locations that we'd go to. And I'm not psychic. I don't have any abilities whatsoever. So I thought to myself, well, what can I do to try to get the spirits to interact with me a little more? Um, so I came up with this random idea at Waverly Hills for the first time. I brought some chains and a blindfold and some locks with me. And I was like, all right, guys, let's put me somewhere. Don't tell me where we're going. So they stuck me in a wheelchair. I did know I was on the fourth floor, but they stuck me in a wheelchair and kind of rolled me down and spun me around like like some kind of game show or something, and then just stuck me in some room. And that's where it began at Waverly Hills. Um, but I started it because I wanted to have more experiences, and I figured if the spirits thought I was vulnerable, that they would interact with me more. So that's was my ideal behind starting it.
Right.
But that first one at Waverly Hills, uh, it was very heart pounding and just intense. For the first time, being stuck in a room you can't see, but it enhances your hearing, and everything else. So just to feel being alone in a room, chained and blindfolded for half an hour, 45 minutes, whatever it was that first night, was just super intense. Because you could feel you've been to Waverly, you could feel the slight breeze of the wind coming in. Um, you can hear all the little noises around you, the little pieces of a rock falling off the wall. I mean, you could just hear it.
Right.
I mean, it was just super intense. And the whole time I kept hearing something in the hallway behind me, but I couldn't turn around. I couldn't see what it was. Well, later on, again, after evidence review, you can see bats flying back and forth in the hallway, like damn near the whole time I'm in that room. I guess they were attracted to the IR light, and
Oh,
they were just flying around like crazy. So yeah, so
yeah.
that made me feel a little better that there wasn't some big creeper standing behind me, because I kept hearing a noise in the hallway behind me.
Right, right.
But yeah, it was bats. It was a bunch of bats flying around in the hallway. But
Oh,
uh,
I
and I've just been kind of doing it ever since.
bats are cute, but the flying I can't handle. Did you see
Right?
Kent Ace's comment?
No, I
He
didn't.
said he said 50 Shades of Paranormal. Good idea.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. But so now
Oh man.
anytime I go to a location now, normally if I don't know about the location, the people that I'm there
Mhm.
with or whoever invited us or whatever, they'll pick out the most active area of that location or the scariest area, and they'll stick me down there and chain me
Now,
up and let me do my thing.
since you've been doing that, what is your
Mhm.
like most I want to say dramatic, but most intense feeling when you
Uh,
recovered? Where you know?
well, I've had moments. I was chained up in Old South Pittsburgh Hospital on the third floor, I believe it was, second floor, third floor, one of the floors. And they chained me up to a cot. I maybe lay down and chained me up to a cot. And for the life of me, it kept sounding like something was walking up on me. And you can hear these noises. And I'm in a long hallway, so the noise travels throughout that hallway. And it just kept sounding like something was walking up on me. At one point, it felt like something was standing next to me, like kind of just breathing over me or something.
Right.
But again, I mean, it was just, what can I do? I'm chained up to this cot. I can't move. So I just, kept on at it, kept asking questions and just trying to get something to interact with me. But I strongly believe something was definitely trying to interact with me there. I felt like it was walking up on me. I felt like it was standing over me, kind of like breathing and stuff. Um, so that was one of the more intense ones
Did you ever
I've had.
feel like when you were doing that like spirit has ever entered your like overtook your body while you're doing that? Have you ever felt
No,
like that?
not
Okay, that's
not at
good.
all, not at all.
Cuz I
But
just
I did
always
have a
wondered if you were more susceptible to a jumper, you know.
right. But I did have a really cool experience up at a Crown Point jail too. I was actually in a John Dillinger cell, chained up, and we had three cameras watching me, and we had a K2 meter on the outside bar of the jail cell, sitting there, and at one part, about 7 minutes in the video, the K2 meter started lighting up. But obviously, I didn't see it until afterwards. It started lighting up, and it looked what seemed to be like a ghostly hand maneuvering itself around the K2 meter.
Oh,
But then when I first seen it, I thought maybe it's a reflection off the bars, the jail bars. But those bars are so rusty, and so there's no reflection off of them. And just the creepiest thing, because you didn't see it like a whole body apparition or nothing. You just seen like what looked like a hand manipulating the K2 meter. So later in the video, it happened again, but it didn't do the same thing. The K2 meter lit up, but there was no movement or nothing moving around the hand. So that kind of made me feel better about the first time it happened because it didn't have that same effect the second time.
Right.
And then later on, towards the end, about 10 minutes before they came and got me, just below me on the bottom bunk, there was like a loud bang, almost like somebody was sitting there and sat up or got up or was standing there and sat down because you could hear the metal of that old metal bunk flex and pop.
Right.
And it wasn't me. I wasn't near it. I was chained up in the middle to a pole.
Right.
So that was a pretty intense one. And that's one of my dear to heart favorite locations right there.
Well, I
Because
gotta
not
say, you're
only,
a pretty brave man to do that all blindfolded and chained up. Because I know I tried. We were at Middle Point School in Ohio, and Austin. He had his helmet that I forget what he called it. Maybe Ace remembers. Eddie Pence might remember too because he was there. But I forget what he called it. But it was to enhance your senses and stuff. And I literally put it on for about 5 minutes and sat in a room all by myself. And I was done because I was like feeling stuff that I was like, okay, this is enough.
Right.
I'm good. Like somebody come and get me. But it kind of was making me dizzy too. So I don't like being dizzy. Yep. So, but Robert Murray had a question. He said, Tim, do you feel drained the following day or pretty much normal after staying up late? We did kind of talk about this before the show too.
Right.
Because Tim actually posted something earlier about,
Right. It really just depends on the investigation, the travel time. I mean, there's a lot of factors that key into that. I mean, if I'm just going somewhere local, a couple hours away, it really doesn't have that big of effect on me. But if it's a long location, depending on whether we're staying the night, how long the investigation lasts, how much sleep we get at the hotel before taking the drive back. So it just really factors in a lot. I don't think I've ever felt drained as far as something at a location draining my energy. I think it's more just, a part of being an old man. You know what I'm saying? It just kicks in sometimes.
That's what I was telling him earlier, Robert, was yeah, I think sometimes we're not used to staying up all night. So to drive all day and then stay up all night investigating, I think we're going to be a little tired the next day. Because I kind of chuckle every time somebody says, I have a paranormal hangover. And I'm like, so do you really have a hangover? Or are you just tired because we're not meant to stay up all night? And we're older people now, so
Karens, got to come home to kids and take care of them.
Yeah. But it just makes me giggle because I'm like, first of all, we drove all day, 5 hours, and then stayed up. I'm too old. I'm just old. I'm sorry. I'm not that old, but anyway.
Just want to say hi to Robert. Hi to Robert real quick. He's a good buddy of mine from he was in Maryland. I don't know, he moved now, but I met him a couple of times in Gettysburg, man. If you ever get a chance to go out there and hang out with Elite Paranormal, awesome.
I have not been to Gettysburg yet, and I know my team does want to go there. So that is one. I was actually invited to go with Mr. Bart Costi. I was invited to go with him. However, the weekend that they're going, because they're going during the day, during the week, I can't go during the week because I work and I cannot take time off, especially now because the month that it's in.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it was. He invited me to go, and I was like, oh man, I want to go, but I can't go during the week. And then, of course,
always go down there for the bash. You can go down there for the Gettysburg Bash.
And I was just gonna say, I think the Gettysburg Bash is the same weekend as the Michigan Paracon. So, and that's one I go to. So, Sean Daniel wanted to know, what is your most active location?
Hey, what's up, Sean? How you doing, brother? That's a hard one, man. I've been to so many locations. I mean, last year alone, I probably went to 40 major locations across the U.S.
That's a lot.
Yes, it seems like if not every weekend, at least 2 to 3 weekends out of the month last year, I was going somewhere. Um, I gotta say, the most active location last year was for me was Indiana State Sanatorium in Rockville, Indiana. And last year, I mean, I was up and down the East Coast and New York and Pennsylvania and a lot of different locations. But I
That's
gotta say,
Adam's
Indiana,
location, correct?
yeah, Adam, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the,
Okay.
yeah, that place is pretty intense, man. Lots of different activity from shadow figures to disembodied voices to it sounded like someone's having a party on the fourth floor above us when we're on the third floor. I mean, there's just moving and doors closing and things being dragged across the floor, and there's no one up there. I mean, I go up there and I'm starting. It sounded like there was someone was having a party. Well, what it sounded like because it was about 6 o'clock in the morning. It sounded like people were getting up and getting ready for their day.
Right.
But once I went up there, I walked the whole floor, checking every room, and there's nobody up there whatsoever. And to
That's
this
cool.
day, I still can't wrap my head around all the activity that was going on that floor above us. Just blew my mind. And it just happens to be the same room. I don't know if you watched Destination Fear when they were there. Uh, they were walking on the outside of the place, and they caught a figure moving across one of the windows on the fourth floor, which is the floor that was being active for us.
Right.
They caught a figure with the thermal camera walking across the window on the fourth floor of the same building that we were in, having our experiences. So yeah, that place was pretty crazy, and the tunnels that go underneath the whole property from one building to the next. The tunnels there are just so dark and
I
intense.
tunnels are weird in itself. Like
Yes.
I know the tunnel at Waverly, now that you're mentioning that tunnel's insane. Like
Yes.
I felt like I was gonna be a bowling ball as soon as I stood at the top of the steps. I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't think I
don't
will be
feel
walking
bad.
to
They chained me up halfway down the tunnel on the
oh.
steps in a wheelchair, and the only thing I could think is something's going to push me the rest of the way down these steps. So before they left me, I made sure they put the brakes on the wheelchair, and I kept my feet planted on
On
the
the
ground
ground.
the whole time, thinking something's going to push me down these steps. Uh,
Oh. But you
yeah,
didn't feel like you
that,
were leaning forward? Like
and not really, but I mean, I just remember having that thought in my head, the whole time in there. I was like, something's gonna push me down these steps. Something's gonna come up and just shove me down the steps. And I was praying when it was all said and done. I was like, thank God, nothing pushed me down the steps because that'd have been about 50 yards or whatever down the rest of the way to the bottom. Yeah,
yeah,
that was pretty intense.
I got to go to Eloise last weekend, which
Say,
is
I'm jealous.
my is my very first haunted location. So, and I've met a lot of amazing people there. But there was a part of the building that we got to investigate that I don't know if they just recently opened up, if they're opening up to everybody, or if it was just that one for the one night. But
Hmm.
it was the sub basement, and this is the first time I've been in it, and I was like, oh my god, I love this. Um,
All right.
they have a tunnel down there, and unfortunately, I couldn't go around the tunnel because it was full of water. However, I
Mm,
was like,
yeah.
there's something creepy around there. And I would have
Yeah.
loved to go through there because that was Eloise.
So with that
But
being
tunnels,
said, you've been to Eloise. So when I go out there in April, where would be a good place for me to do my lockdown at? Because I know nothing about the place at all.
well, there's a couple floors you can't really investigate much anymore because of they've turned it into a like a haunted attraction. So
Hmm.
the basement and the first floor. Basement would have been my choice. But I would say probably an Ace might be able to answer this because he knows the building a little better than I do. Um, I should say a lot better. But I would say the bathtub, the on the fifth floor. Get chained
Bathtub.
up, sit in the bathtub on the fifth floor.
Okay.
Yeah, they used it as a hydro tub, so yeah.
Okay. All right. I've never done a lockdown in a bathtub before. That'll be the first.
Yeah, I would do it there. Let's see. Eddie Pence has a really long. He said I was there for cleanup before it opened to the public. As soon as I got there and went in, I was right at the tunnel, 100 yards in, and my light on the phone malfunctioned and died for at least 5 minutes. I was standing there in complete darkness. Okay,
Oh wow.
so that was the
What's up,
Indiana.
Eddie?
So I guess I need to take my team to the Indiana State hospital. So
Yeah, I think you guys would really enjoy it. It's a pretty cool location. It's a decent size and a lot of creepy stuff going on for
now,
sure.
have you done many investigations here in Michigan?
No, not none at all. That's why I'm looking forward to coming up there in April.
Oh,
I was supposed to
okay.
come up there with Phil Gibson.
Okay,
We had
yeah,
one set up in October for
I do remember that.
Van Buren Historical Museum or something like that. Something like that.
I
It was
thought it
some
was a
kind of
Simpson. I thought it was a Simpson hospital. Wasn't that? Or is that
no,
somebody
some
else?
kind
No.
of
Okay.
um I don't know. I think it started with a V like Van Buren or Van something. But at the last second, like a couple days before, whoever was supposed to be running things, letting
Uh
us
huh.
in that night and getting us set up, canceled on us. So I didn't get to come up there.
Oh yeah,
But I've
I
been,
think you mentioned that to me because I was like,
yeah,
oh, you're coming to Michigan. I can meet you.
yeah, I was super excited. But at the last couple days, something happened with it. So, but
That's
I
too
want to come
bad.
up there and check out Eloise, and I want to try that 16th precinct. Is that what it's called? The
That
16th
Detroit,
police
that
station?
yeah, the Detroit Six Precinct, which is
Yeah,
I was
sixth. Okay.
yeah, unfortunately, right now, um, there's no investigations happening. Me and Ace were the caretakers there, and the owner passed
Oh, okay.
away in August of last
Oh, sorry
year.
to hear that.
His
I didn't know
son
that.
has now taken it over, and we just don't know what's happening with it right now. I mean, we've heard a few things, but nothing set in stone, so we have no idea. But it was an amazing place. And if you were ever, if they do ever start doing investigations there again, get chained up in the gun range.
In the gun range.
Yep,
Okay.
yep. So, but that's a good place too. I know Eddie Pence wanted to go there too. Thank you
Yeah, definitely.
for sharing out. Appreciate it. Hi, Courtney. Courtney's on. Oh, she couldn't
Courtney,
stay.
what's up, sis?
She's a good person for sharing everything out too.
Oh, yes, she is. She's always
Now,
so helpful with everything.
um, have you ever traveled outside the country to go investigate yet?
Yes, one location we couldn't really investigate, like do a full on investigation. We were in Belize at the Mayan ruins out there in Belize. So we were able to walk around and do some kind of half
And
ass
where is that
EVP
at?
recording. In Belize, the country, Belize, the Mayan ruins, the big old temples
Oh,
and
okay.
pyramids out there. Um, Back in 2019, me and my brother and my sister-in-law went to Belize, um, and we got to half-ass investigate the Mayan ruins. So that was pretty cool, being somewhere that old.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was pretty neat just to be there, let alone, try to get some EVPs and try to investigate a little bit. Which place is insane, Eddie? Which place are you talking about?
I'm trying to take that off. I went to put the Detroit Six Precinct comment or repeat reply to his, and my computer's being stupid tonight. So, so until
Yeah,
that comes
me and
back up,
Eddie.
I can't take it off, which is
I
stupid.
haven't had a chance to meet Eddie yet either. We were supposed to meet up, and I think one of his buddies had COVID or something, and he had been hanging around with his friend, and so we had to cancel the investigation that we had. Eddie, we need to get together this
There
year,
we
bro.
go. Yeah, Eddie Pence is a cool guy. I mean, I've investigated with him a couple times, and I'm actually going to go and investigate with him again in end of May, so it'll be fun. Shaw wanted to know, was in Belize a few years ago. The tour guide said he's seen things at those pyramids that would sacred scare the brave. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I bet. I wish we could have stayed there like throughout the night by ourselves and just did a full-on investigation, but there's no way they would have let us out there. But that would
I
have
want
been
to go
very
to a
cool.
castle. That I would like to go
Yes,
to Ireland and investigate a castle. That would be my
for
favorite.
sure. That'd be awesome. Everybody's always trying to get me to come over to Ireland. I got some friends out in the UK and the Netherlands and stuff like that. And yeah, they're like,
Well,
come
you
on
better
out,
start
kiddo,
playing
come
the
on out.
lottery.
Right? That's an expensive plane ticket to get out there.
I wonder if we started a GoFundMe if people would actually like donate to it.
Yeah, you never know. You never know.
I went one year, I think, when GoFundMe started, I saw this lady ask for $1 from everybody so she could pay her bills, and she ended up
Hmm.
like getting almost like 10 grand. I was like, that's insane. I would
Oh well.
like, what is people's deal? But whatever. It's not mine. I didn't donate. I was like, yeah,
Right.
on your own. You're on your own. Um,
Yeah.
what is your most favorite piece of equipment that you have? That you have.
Um, well, when it comes to documenting camera recorder, when it comes to a trigger object or something that they can interact with, my EDI meter. That's my equipment of choice when it comes to interaction. And I'm old school. I love the video camera recorder.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got cat balls and all kinds of different millimeters and rim pods and stuff like that. But I normally prefer to have the EDI meter with me.
So Ace definitely agreed with me. The tub area on the fifth floor, and there's a little room next to it, also. And then if you're on the second floor, there's another tub area in the apartment portion of the
Hmm.
second floor. So both tubs, definitely that.
Thanks for the heads up, brother.
I'm not sure how to actually pronounce your name, so if I mess it up, I apologize. But I think it's Kadia. She would like to investigate one of the towers of London.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be cool for sure. London's
Have
got
you
a lot of
ever have you
history.
ever investigated like a bridge?
Plenty of them. Plenty of
Have
them.
you?
More than I choose to. Yeah, plenty of them because that's where I started. The field was investigating bridges and cemeteries and stuff like that. I've been to all the crybaby bridges and Hell's Gates and stuff of that nature. Um,
What kind of things did you capture from bridges?
um, I mean, when we first started off 20 something years ago, we would take pictures and use the recorder and stuff like that. So that was back when we really didn't know the difference between, or we wasn't really educated enough to know the difference between dust and an orb. So we would always get pictures with a bunch of orbs in it, at these bridges and
Right.
get super excited, like, oh my God, look at all the orbs in these pictures. Until we realized, what they were and what caused them. But other than that, I mean, really, there was a bridge here in Indiana, and for some reason, when you were at this bridge, you always got a static charge. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
it was the wiring above us, that went across the bridge,
Right.
but you could feel the energy in the air. It was like
Right.
static all around you. Um, I don't remember what it was called, what the bridge was called, because my sister-in-law took us there. But that was probably the coolest bridge I've ever been to. Um, we've been to a place called Hell's Gate, and that's a tunnel that runs over underneath a train track, and that's in Brazil, I believe. And it was cool, but we were able to kind of make sense because everybody would say the walls looked like they were bleeding, in this
Right.
tunnel and this and that. Well, so we walk through the tunnel. It's probably 2 o'clock in the morning. We're there investigating, and we're walking through the tunnel, and you can see what they're talking. These people are talking about where it looks like blood running down the walls, but actually it's rust. It's
Oh,
rust, wet rust running down the walls, but it does look like blood.
right.
Um, but so we weren't aware of the fact that it was still an active train track above us. So we're in the tunnel, 2 o'clock, 2:30 in the morning. Here comes this train out of nowhere, barreling above us, and
Was
that was pretty intense. Being in that tunnel at 2:30 in the morning with this train that we didn't know was coming barreling down the tracks above us. It was loud, and it felt like the cave was gonna come down on top of us or whatever, the tunnel, whatever. Um, but other than that, I mean, I really personally haven't had a lot of experiences with bridges or tunnels. Um, I had a couple of cool experiences in graveyards. I was at one by myself one night. It was on Friday the 13th. It's been a few years ago, and it's a little family cemetery. I think what was it called? The Eller Cemetery. It was a cemetery on the outside of their land, but I was out there in the middle of the night, and the cemetery is surrounded by woods. I'm down there by myself. There's a Civil War soldier that's buried on the outside of the property of the cemetery because he was shamed. Uh, he went AWOL or something while he served. Civil War soldier went AWOL, and I think he knew the family, but he wasn't a part of their family, but he knew them, and they allowed
right.
his grave to be buried in their cemetery, but away from everybody else. So I had set a recorder on the headstone of the Civil War soldiers, and I walked off to go do some filming in the middle of the graveyard, and I'm facing the woods in front of me filming, but there's woods behind me too. And again, I'm by myself. It's late in the early morning hours, and there's this huge crashing noise behind me. I jump and do a 360 and focus at the woods behind me, and there's nothing there um, that I could see anyway. So I don't know if it was a tall tree, branch falling from a tree. Well, it wasn't windy that night, so it couldn't have been the wind, blowing something around. But so as I got home, that recorder that I had set on that headstone of the Civil War soldier, that's the first thing I did when I got home. I was excited to, start listening to some EVPs before I went to sleep. I normally do when I get home. If it's late at night, I'll normally listen to some EVPs before going to sleep. So I'm listening to that recorder that was sitting on the headstone. And mind you, I'm in the middle of the cemetery filming when this recorder sitting on the headstone. And I posted it a couple of years ago. It's probably on Facebook somewhere still. Where this recorder was, you could hear footsteps going up to the recorder because you can hear it, whatever it was, walking through the leaves or walking, up to it. And then you just hear a growl come over the recorder and then nothing else at all. You don't hear it walking away. You don't hear it make any other noises. You just hear 4 or 5 footsteps walking up to it. You hear a growl, and that's all you hear. And I'm in the middle of the cemetery by myself, and there's no one else with me. So that's definitely a cemetery we go visit a couple times a year. It's a pretty neat little cemetery. The first time we were there, we're getting ready to wrap up and leave and go home, and it was weird because it was another growl. There was something, almost a growl in some reddish colored eyes in the woods at one end of the cemetery.
Hmm.
And at that time, I had my youngest son with me. He couldn't have been but 11 then. So normally we'd investigate a little more, but for his safety, not knowing what it could have been a wild animal. We didn't
Right.
know what it was, and we had a couple of younger kids with us, so we just went ahead and left. But we were already in the process of leaving anyway, so that just made us leave quicker. Um, but there's another cemetery that I really like. It's in Greencastle, Indiana. It's called the Boone Hutchinson Cemetery. Once you pull up the drive to the cemetery, to your right, there's a fence there. And over that fence, there's a little pasture, but if you go down into the pasture, there's a set of trees. You go down in those trees, it leads you to a tunnel that actually go underneath the cemetery.
Oh.
Yes, yes. And you can not fully stand up and walk, but you kind of can hunch over and walk through the tunnels to a certain point, as far as you want. If you aren't claustrophobic, you can go back there quite a ways. Um, so that cemetery is, I mean, it's
What was
pretty
the
cool.
tunnel used for?
I don't know. I don't know what the history behind the tunnels are. I just know there's an entry to the tunnel, and it's not like a huge tunnel where you can walk right into it.
Right.
It's kind of small where you got to just kind of walk up to it, kneel down, and start walking through. Um,
Hmm.
but the entry goes and it breaks off into two parts. There's like two parts of this tunnel, and they go right underneath the cemetery. The claims are, over the years that people have seen corpses fall through the tunnels, this and that. I mean, I never experienced that like that. But it's kind of neat, and it's something different that these tunnels go directly underneath the cemetery. So it was,
I mean, that
it's
is kind
it's
of
pretty
weird
cool.
and interesting. I mean,
Yes, yes, it's different
Cindy
for sure.
Cindy Clayton had a question for you. She wanted to know if you ever hear of stuff happening in Lafayette and St. John's, Indiana.
Um, I can't say that I have. I've never. I don't think we've been through Lafayette to investigate anything. Um, and which is weird because we've been all over the state of Indiana, but nah, I can't say that I've been to Lafayette. Maybe she can tell me about some stuff in Lafayette that I'm not aware of.
Donna wants to know what has been your darkest place you've investigated.
That would be my dreams. No, just kidding. Um, the darkest place I've ever investigated. That's another really hard one. Probably Kings Park in New York. Such a massive location, and you want to talk about some tunnels that'll scare the life out of you. There's probably 30 or 40 buildings on this property, and there's miles and miles of underground tunnels that go throughout the whole property. Um, and it was multiple things. I mean, they had different buildings for the mentally insane. They had, so many different buildings on the property for so many different things. Uh, just being there on that property, and it takes you back in the time, and you almost, I'm not gonna say you feel what they felt back then, but it definitely can make you pretty emotional being there for the first time, walking around that property and thinking about what's happened there and the things that took place. Um, and I did spend a little time in the morgue up there in the meat locker, so that could have a little to do with it too. But that place is pretty intense. A lot of dark and crazy history there, with patients being mistreated and abused and experimented on. So yeah, that I would say that's probably one of the more intense places I've ever been to.
Cindy said her daughter in Lafayette has had things going on in a few different houses, and also her friend in St. John's, Indiana, has things going on. They just moved there.
Oh, well, we do residential and private cases, so if she needs some help, you can always reach out to me.
There you go. Private message them.
Yeah.
um, now, okay, we have 15 more minutes. Have you ever been
All right.
to the what we here in Iowa call the Villisca Axe Murder House? I probably said
No,
that wrong.
I haven't been to the Axe Murder House yet. I'm actually going to Iowa March 6th to the Malvern Manor. And from what I understand, Villisca is like a half an hour away from there. We don't have that booked, but I will definitely be going by there to take some pictures and check the place out. And maybe I'll get lucky and someone will be there and let me take a little walk around. And then later in July, we'll be back in Iowa again, and we'll be going to the Edinburgh Manor out there in Iowa. So I will be out in Iowa at least 2 times this year, but I
Now,
haven't been to the Axe Murder House.
You mentioned taking your son to a cemetery. Do any of your children investigate with you?
Yes, my oldest son's 30 years old. He investigates when he can. He's a hardworking man. And then my son Cody started investigating with us probably when he was 11 or 12. He's been to some pretty crazy, notorious locations with us over the last few years. He still investigates. I mean, like last year, he did quite a few, but he's in high school now and he's playing football and stuff, so that takes a little more priority of his time. But he gets out with us when he can still. My
Right.
daughter, my daughter is been to because my 16-year-old, they're twins. I have a boy and a girl, Odie and Kylie, and she comes to some places every now. She's been on the up to the jail with me in Crown Point a couple times, and a couple other minor things, just some graveyards and stuff of that nature.
Right.
Um, I think she might be somewhat sensitive. Our father-in-law passed away 2 years ago, this past November, and she tells me all the time that she sees my father-in-law walking around the house. You're like, "Oh, Dad, I went into the kitchen to get a drink, and Papa was standing there at the counter."
Right.
He did die in the home. Um, so I think she somewhat might be sensitive. Um, but the idea of going to some of these locations that I go to just scares the death out of her. She's like, "Daddy, don't
Oh,
bring nothing home. Be safe. Don't bring nothing home." So she's got a curiosity, and
that
but
sounds like my
I don't
daughter.
think I don't think she's quite worked up the nerve to do some of the more intense locations, or
Yeah.
So I just let her do what she wants to do. When she says, "Daddy, I want to come with you," okay, come on, baby, let's go. You know.
Now, do you feel like since you've been investigating for 21 years, do you feel like your sense, because you said you don't have any abilities, but do you feel like you've developed some over the years, like become more
Um,
sensitive?
Maybe in some ways I do have one thing that's I'm kind of sensitive with. I don't know what you want to call it or how it's even said, but I pick up weird smells, perfumes, cigar smoke, just random smells out of nowhere for no explanation. I'll be
Like I've been smelling cigarette
somewhere.
smells for the last 3 days.
Right, just weird, weird things like that. I'll pick up on something like that. I mean, if I have any abilities at all, I don't even know if that would be considered ability, but that's the only thing that I really pick up on.
There is, and it's clear. It's a clear something. Oh my goodness, I saw it the other day. It's a type of clairvoyant type thing, but it's
Yeah,
only
I,
you
I mean,
only do
I
smells.
yeah, I do get that from time to time at different places, different locations. I mean, just randomly out of nowhere. I mean, it's kind of weird. I can be standing, I don't know, in the front yard and get a whiff of cologne or perfume or something, just something random.
Yeah, I was trying to look it up and see what it is. I know I came across it the other day, and I was like, oh, that's what it's called.
Right, right. Now, I
um,
mean, I do have the moments when I'm at a location, um, whether I'm sensitive to it or it's just my mind sitting a natural reaction. I'll have my hairs will stand up on the back of my neck or my arms. I'll get goosebumps. But I more think that's more created by my own mind. My mind saying, "Hey, you're intimidated. You're a little scared of this place," and that's its way of just kind of warning me, "Hey, you're a little scared, T dog." You know. So, but other than that, I mean, just natural feelings, gut feelings,
Mhm.
about things or whatever, but nothing more really than
Right.
that, I would say.
So it's called, and I could be pronouncing this a little wrong, but it's clear Salient, and I'll put it in the
Okay.
chat and spell it because um, if I can spell right. I hate this computer. I really do. I need a new computer. If anybody wants to send me one, seriously. Um, but anyways, Here we go. That's oh well, it's CL, not CK, because I can't type.
That's
But
cool.
anyways, there. Yeah, I just came across it the other day, so that's pretty cool. I smell
Mhm.
things too. Like the last 3 days, I swear I've been smelling cigarettes, but I think
Mhm.
it has to do with when I had COVID back last April.
Right.
Everybody that had COVID that I've come across is telling me that it was yeah, they've had it they smell it too. So I'm convinced
Hmm.
it was because it's a side effect.
Right.
I could be wrong.
Very good. Hmm.
Sean wanted to know, what is your dream location ghost hunt?
Oh, Uh, the hunt with you, Sean. What do you mean? What are you talking about, brother?
No,
Um,
where's your dream ghost hunt? Where do you
I
want
know.
to
I'm
go?
just messing. I'm just messing with him. He keeps trying to get me to come down to Florida to do the lighthouse down there. Um, my top two would either be Egypt, the pyramids,
That would be
or
fun.
Alcatraz. Alcatraz. I'd love to investigate Alcatraz. I've been there on a tour years ago. I ran around and I even spent about 10 minutes in the solitary confinement cell. But I would love to have a full couple days of investigating
Do they
Alcatraz.
even let you investigate there?
I don't know. I've heard from some people said they do, but it's very expensive.
Oh,
Then I've heard from others that they don't. So I don't know.
right.
Um, a couple of years ago, Gary Woodward, another
Hmm.
investigator field, was trying to book it, and he said that he was going to book it, but nothing ever happened out of it. So I don't know if you can, if you can't, or if they got it shut down because of COVID. I don't know. But I'd love to be able to investigate
Well, if
Alcatraz.
you ever go to Alcatraz, you make sure you take me because that's on my bucket list.
Yes. See, it's paranormal wise for me, plus mobsters and gangsters. Al Capone spent
Exactly.
time there. Bumpy Face Johnson was there. Um, there were so many mobsters and gangsters that were locked away in Alcatraz.
It's just the
So
history of the building. Just the
yes,
history
yes,
itself is like, I'm standing here in the
yes.
middle of
Just I mean,
history.
yeah. I mean, being there on that tour was pretty cool. I mean, just the place is huge, and you gotta take a ferry to get over to it. And once you get on that
Right.
island, it's just like you're looking across the bay at San Francisco, and you're like, oh my God, I'm on the rock. You know, this
Right.
is the rock. The Yeah, it's just unbelievable, man. I'd like to go back here just for another tour if I can. It's
Right.
that exciting. It's really really cool.
Yeah, that would be cool to go to. Now, you mentioned the ferry and water. Did you ever
Mhm.
investigate like any water areas? Because I know water is a conductor of energy, but have you
Yeah,
ever like
we did
investigated?
investigate a park where a young child, I think he was 12 years old, was hit by a train track years ago nearby this park, and apparently his spirit, you could see his apparition walking through the park and next to this pond that's in the park, and you would hear the boy whistling. So, I mean, we really didn't get anything that night when we were investigating out there, but other I can't think of.
Because I always think of like Pearl Harbor and stuff, like how, I mean, not only the history there too, but like all those deaths that happened to the
Well,
military.
I mean,
Like, I
I guess
wonder
so.
how much you would get from because they're underwater and,
Right.
I just was
We
always
did.
curious.
We have done a lot of the crybaby bridges, which is, the legend behind that is someone threw their baby off a bridge into the
Hmm.
to the creek. So I mean, I guess we've done that a couple times at a couple of bridges where they have those claims of people dying at. Um, but other than that, I can't really think of any big bodies of water that we've been to investigate. Um,
I don't know if anybody's out
we do.
there that ever investigated a body of water, message me.
Oh,
I'm
I
curious.
take that back. up in New York, we were on the back side of the Abbeville Horror House, and there's some kind of lake or something on the back side of that property, and we were on the other side of the lake from the Abbeville Horror House. Me and Trinity Paranormal, and we did do some EVP sessions out there and got a couple of responses. No words, but a couple of strange noises that didn't really make sense.
Right.
And that was, like I said, again, up in New York on the back side of the Abbeville house. But I mean, that was just kind of a random thing. We couldn't investigate the house, so we took pictures of the
I know Hinsdale has a pond on it,
yes,
and people have claimed to see a lady in white come from the pond. So
you see, you're bringing up all these memories now. Yeah, I forgot that Hinsdale's got that pond out there too. But you know what was creepy up there for me was. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was hoping when I was there last June, I was hoping to see her, but I didn't see her. That would have been cool. Yeah. I did lay by the pond for a very long time to calm my ass down because Hinsdale made me a little cuckoo.
Yeah, those woods there up there behind the Hinsdale house were pretty creepy. We walked up that path, and there was that big tree. What they call it, the offering tree or something like that. That's up in the woods.
Yep.
It's pretty creepy up in that area.
Well, Jeff Fent got a picture, which he believes is Pukwudgie, and it is a little creepy. So I don't know if you have ever seen Jeff Fent's picture, but yeah, it's kind of it's if you go on his page, the tree is he made it red so you could see the face more, or his light that he had. But it's really interesting. It's cool. I know Ace had an experience out there. One day he can share that story because it's not mine to share, but he had an experience there, and so yeah, the woods there are a little wicked.
I spent a little time up in the master bedroom, chained up to a chair, and it was actually a live feed that night with April Brusette, New Jersey. She's a psychic, and we were doing a live feed, and she was telling me what was going on around me. She kept saying she felt a man's presence right behind me. At one moment, my legs start kind of like tingling or kind of burning a little bit. And she asked me, Tim, do you feel anything on your left leg? And I'm like, yeah, I do. And she said, well, he's over there like doing something to your leg, touching your leg or doing something like that. And then she was saying something about the driveway, like Indians walking or kind of standing around the driveway, and a bunch of interesting stuff. So I definitely want to get back out there because that one.
Well, it is. Just wasn't I believe it is based on Indian ground
land. Yes,
but you know what? Sure. What part of the United States really isn't, Indian, Native American land? Exactly. Donna said there's supposedly a water portal in a dam in Tennessee. It's a distillery.
Huh. That's interesting. I'd like to know where that's at.
Yeah, that sounds cool. I have a hard time with portal. We have 1 minute left, so I won't even get into that. So I want to thank look at how fast that went by. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Thank you for all the questions. Appreciate it. I appreciate you being on here. Next week we have Ashley Storm from Broken Bow, Oklahoma. She will be on the show with me. So I'm excited because we are actually going out there in April. It's Hales Barnum. So I'm excited. So catch us next week here on the RU Media and Things Network. Same time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And next up on the RU Media is the Cryptic Show, and they have Matt Warner and his daughter on. So stay around. And I think on the Things Network there is the Petri Dish. as long as he's still feeling better. So you guys enjoy your evening. Talk to everybody later. Thank you again. Bye.
All right.